Well, all the ingredients are here, aren't they? A very much informed lower league team.
Is this the chance? It is the chance, and it's the goal that they craved.
And scored too! David Bale puts his name up in lights and Wembley.
Which has been in chaos off the pitch, is in harmony on it.
Hello and welcome to Inside the Change Room. Today we are joined by a man who started his career down in the Ishman League Division 3 with Wingate and Finchley. He went on to play for Barnet, Dagenham, Brentford, Wycombe, Gillingham, to Eastleigh, and now Eastleigh's first team manager, Ben Strevens. Ben, how are you, mate?
Hi guys, thanks for having me on. Yeah, very well, thank you. Hope you're both well.
All good. Jacob, as ever, joined by yourself. How are you?
I'm good, cheers, mate.
Yeah, Ben. Let's go right back to the start then. What made you get into the beautiful game?
God knows. I think obviously from a young age, I remember going to watch my dad play football and sort of everything I ever remembered wanting to be involved in it. Probably thought it'd passed me by. I was at Watford from probably about the age of 9 or 10 up until 15, I think it was, and I actually got released for not being big enough. So I thought that was probably it. So I went and played Sunday football with my mates. Someone I knew from Sunday football joined a team called Wingate and Finchley and was playing in the first team, was slightly older than me. Said, do I want to come down to Wingate? So then I got involved there, played in the youth team before I know it was in the first team, and then a bit of a roundabout way of making it to be a professional, but then I get my chance to be a professional footballer. So not the normal route, going through academies and all that stuff, but one I enjoyed as well.
Yeah, I mean, you started your professional career with quite a bang, to be fair to you. 28 league goals to finish joint top goal scorer in the league that year, and you also got promoted. What was your recollection of that season?
From pre-season, I started training with the first team at Wingate and Finchley, and there was a real nice group of lads, really welcoming. I was only a young lad, and I don't know, think about when you're young, once you get on a roll and you're scoring goals, you don't really think about things that can go wrong. And I enjoyed obviously playing. I started doing really well. Ended up going and, God, I don't know how many trials in that season just because I was doing so well. I remember going Millwall, Chelsea, all sorts of places. And ultimately, I ended up going to Barnet. John Steele offered me a professional contract. All the other places sort of offered me academy forms. I was looking like I was going to sign for Charlton on my academy forms, but Barnet offered me a pro deal and I couldn't turn it down. And they allowed me to go back on loan to Wingate as well to try and get promoted that year. So it sort of fitted in really well with what I wanted to do. And yeah, I think it was just like I was saying then, I was young and pretty much every game I thought I was going to score. As you get older, you don't really think that way. But at that age, I did.
Yeah, I mean, that answers our next question perfectly. Was it the case that because Barnet had given you that bit of security of it's a pro contract, you've got time to settle, and we're kind of thinking about you for the future rather than academy football and you might make it, you might not? Was that the kind of thinking behind why you went to Barnet?
Yeah, the closest I went on I was probably at Charlton just over a month and I'd done really well. I scored for their under-19 team or whatever it was then. I played in the reserves and stuff like that, and they really liked me and they just said, look, right now we can't offer you a pro deal, but we want to offer you another year academy with the boys and give you a chance. And I just felt like all them boys had been there from a young age. I'd be going back to sort of playing youth football. And yeah, Stilly is very good at when he gets you in the office. He got me in the office at Barnet and he sort of sold me the dream. And I didn't sign for much money, if I'm being honest. He asked me what I was getting working for my uncle being a gardener and playing for Wingate and Finchley. Stupidly, I told him the real figure and he ended up saying, well, do you want to be a professional footballer for that? And I said yes. I probably should have put a little bit more money on it. But to get a professional contract, and it was like a 2-year deal with an option on it as well. And Barnet was literally 10 minutes from my house. So all in all, it was a real easy fit. And one I don't regret, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously signed for Barnet. You were loaned back to Wingate and Finchley to help them get promoted. You then come back. You then come back to Barnet and then had loan spells at Slough and St Albans. If you look back at that time of your career, was those loan spells at those type of places, did they end up making you the player that you ended up becoming?
Yeah, I think the longevity of my career and playing involved in it certainly was helping from being a young player playing for Wingate and Finchley. And then the goalkeeper coach at the time at Barnet was also assistant manager at St Albans, and I went off to St Albans. And although it was sort of taking a step back, it was still about 3 divisions higher than what I'd played for Wingate and Finchley in. I did really well on my loan spell, and whilst I was on loan there, Barnet offered me a new deal. Said they wanted me to get back and involved in the first team. As a little bit of a change in what was going on. John Steele went upstairs and Tony Cotty come in as manager. And I think because I did so well on my loan spell at St Albans, all of a sudden I was sort of projected to be right in the first team mix. And yeah, that's ultimately what I wanted to do. So I don't regret going on loans. I say it to all my younger players now, there's although it's good watching National League games or League Two games as it was for me then, the only way you really learn is being out there yourself, and whatever level it is, playing against other men is gets you ready for the battle and all the other stuff that you don't get at youth team football. So yeah, it was probably the best thing that happened to me.
I mean, at Barnet, you did suffer quite a bit of a relegation battle, which went down to the final day of the season that year. Both yourselves and Torquay were fighting the drop, and you had to play each other on the last game of the season. I mean, that's quite a script, isn't it? I mean, what was your emotions going into that game like?
It was a mad season. When I went there the first year I was at Barnet, we lost in the playoffs at Peterborough, and then the second year I think we was like 7th, 8th in the league, and for whatever reason the Barnet fans didn't really like John Steele, so he sort of went upstairs. They brought Tony Cotty in, and our first game with Tony Cotty in charge, I think we beat Blackpool. I think it was like 7-0, something crazy like that. That moved us into the playoff place, and I think everyone thought, right, we're going to go on and get promoted this year. And I don't know what happened. I was only a young lad then. Some of the older boys didn't really take to Tony Cotty that well. It didn't work out, and we all of a sudden, before we knew it, we had lost quite a few. We let some of the experienced players leave the football club. We went on a bit of a free fall, and we was dropping down the league, and we just couldn't stop it. He ended up resigning. John Steele stepped back in as first team manager, and like you said, it ended up going into the last day of the season, which was mad. Playing Torquay at home, and obviously us needing to win to stay up, and losing 3-2. And before I knew it, I was sort of back into the non-league picture from working so hard to be a professional. But ultimately, it was a massive blow for the football club as well. You know, a lot of good players left at that time. We'll talk about it in a minute, but so I ended up being the only player left that got relegated, and then a few years later getting back promoted because there was such a turnover of players at the football club, just because finances had to be changed. So it was, it was a crazy time.
Yeah, I mean, like you just said as well, the game finished 3-2. Torquay went 3-0 up at half time, but you managed to claw 2 goals back. What is it like that early in your career being involved in like such a high pressure match, especially how it played out as well?
It was really weird because at the start of it, I was on the bench, and I've got to be honest, I didn't actually mind being on the bench because there was so much pressure on it. It was one of those where if you're starting a game, I think you really feel it. And we missed a penalty. Darren Curry was our best player that season. He was amazing for us. I think he ended up getting in the team of the year, missed a penalty. We ended up, like you're saying, going down 3-0 down. Our goalkeeper got injured. I think it was in the first 5 minutes of the game, and the sub-goalie come on. And they weren't funny at the time, but the goalie got injured, then still he made another 2 subs. I think it was at half time. And I was just sitting on the bench the second half, knowing he had made all these subs and obviously couldn't come on. I think we got it back to 3-2 as a 3-1, and he went mad at me and told me to go and warm up. So because I was young, I just ran off and warmed up because he was like saying, well, you should be out there warming up, ready to come on or whatever. He had forgot they had made all 3 subs. So one of the coaching staff told him, said, John, you've made all your subs, you shouted at Strevens, but he can't come on. And he called me back, apologised to me, and I sat back down. But I didn't want to say to him at the time the pressure he was under and everything that was going on then. But it was just, we got it back to 3-2. I honestly thought we was actually going to go on and get the equaliser or maybe even turn it around. But at the end of the game, it was horrible. Obviously, we was at home, all our fans were gutted, and all the Torquay players were celebrating because it was only one relegation at that time, and unfortunately it was us.
Yeah, Ben, you speak about John Steele there. Obviously, he's been highly successful during his management career. He's now kind of something at Maidstone, head of football at Maidstone or whatever he is. What did you make of him in terms of so early in his career, and what was he like as a manager in terms of man management and tactically?
my early part of it, obviously coming from non-league and playing for him when I was 18, I've got to be honest, I was really, really scared of him. Really scared. He was demanding. We had a lot of young players there together. I remember once I called him John instead of Gaffer, and he absolutely battered me and said, "What am I, your mate am I?" and all that sort of stuff. Absolutely hammered me. I remember I never called him John again. I would always call him Gaffer, and even when he calls me now and I speak to him about things, this, that and the other, I always still call him Gaffer. But he was just, the reason he has such a good career is the fact that he was so demanding. He knew players. He'd given so many non-league boys a chance. You know, there's so many good players in non-league. You look at the players that he's brought through and now have gone on to have amazing careers. You know, loads of them have played in the Premiership. He's just got an eye for talent, a real demanding work ethic, and yeah, he knows how to get teams promoted. He's done it, I don't know how many times now with teams. He's always got teams promoted. So, yeah, I've got the utmost respect for him. You know, my career would not have been if it weren't for him. He signed me at Barnet and then ultimately got me going again at Dagenham and Redbridge. So I'll be forever grateful for him as my manager.
Yeah, do you take a lot of what you've learnt off it? Because obviously we'll get onto it a little bit later. But you're a gaffer now at Eastleigh. Do you take a lot of what you learnt off him when you were younger to use in your own managerial career?
Honestly, he's really hard to replicate. He's someone like Martin Allen. I think they're just unique characters. I think if you tried doing some of the stuff that they did, I think people would laugh at me now and they just won't have it. But I certainly love the fact he gives non-league boys a chance, gives young players a chance. I'm going to try to do that during my career. You know, I don't look down at the lower leagues and go, oh, they're scoring goals in the Southern League or, you know, the Conference North or South. They're not going to be good enough to step up to the National League. I think people just need opportunities. It's what he's done for a lot of us. Yeah, and, you know, little bits and pieces, his team spirit, the way he does things within the group, you know, certainly at Dagenham and Redbridge, it's probably the best team spirit I've ever had in the group. He built that, you know, and allowed it to sort of grow, and I want to do that the way I go through things as well. But yeah, really hard, honestly, to replicate the way he is and Martin was, you know, two big parts of my careers, especially in the way today's game is now. You know, like I said, I was pretty scared of him when I was young. I just don't think you manage that way anymore. Just lads are completely different now, and I know it sounds strange to say that, but managerial styles have changed a lot, and I think that's why you've seen quite a lot of successful managers, people like Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola. They're real, you know, they look like players really want to play for him in a different way rather than being scared of him.
Yeah, I mean, you said it, you mentioned it earlier, but we found out that you were actually the only player. Fast forward a few years, you were the only player out of that squad that ended up getting Barnet re-promoted into the Football League in 2005. Yeah, how would you sum up kind of those few years, and then as best as you can, that year that you did get promoted? What was different about that year that ended up making Barnet, because it's so hard to get out of obviously the Conference Prem, we all know, but what made that squad and the management so special from the different years that you had at Barnet?
The first couple of years, honestly, at Barnet, we lost so many good players when we got relegated. Without being bad, probably the main reason I stayed at Barnet at that time was because I was young and I wasn't on a great contract. All the big hitters, the good players at the club, either sold or left, but just because they had to sort of lessen the wage bill. It was a couple of years later, Peter Shreves was a manager, Martin Allen come in as assistant manager. And Peter ended up obviously then leaving and Martin took over as manager. And he brought in some real good players, Giuliano Grazioli, Danny Maddox, Chris Plummer, Ian Hendon, sort of lots of players that, you know, we started getting a good group together again. We was in the playoff picture right up there, and Brentford come calling for him. He was only a young manager at the time. He ended up leaving to go to Brentford in League One, and Paul Fairclough stepped in to be manager, and he was England non-league manager and still is now. So his year, he took over at the back end of that season. We lost in the playoffs to Shrewsbury on penalties, and obviously we was gutted at the time, but we didn't realise the nucleus of the group had been put together. And Paul Fairclough then ended up taking over as manager the following season. And adding into them good players that we had already at the football club. He knew so many good young non-league players. You know, he signed Dean Sinclair. Simon King got converted to centre-half by him. I ended up playing a lot of the season at right midfield by him. Nicky Bailey joined us. Him and his connections, along with the group that we already had there together. The next year we ended up just, you know, taking the league by storm. We won it quite convincingly in the end. I think we won it with a good few games to spare. And we played some real good football as well. To be fair to Paul, he got us passing the ball, and we had a nice balance between experience and young players that were clearly going to go on to have good careers.
Yeah, you spoke about some names there. Nicky Bailey, Ian Hendon. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, and I'll see if you can think on your feet, Strevs. I'm sure you can, as a manager. That year, obviously with the names and the management you played under, was there any good stories that maybe the Barnet fans can hear that you can actually say on here?
God, we had so many good times within that group. Probably the best part of it was the promotion day. We got promoted. We won at home and beat Halifax. We ended up going to Simon King, stayed in someone's house, literally on the back end of the ground. We all went behind there, started drinking, got probably a little bit too drunk than we should have. Ended up going out into St Albans, having a great night out there. And then about 10 days, I think 2 weeks later, we had all booked up to go to Marbella as a bit of a end of season party promotion thing.
Nice.
And Paul Fairclough named his England non-league squad, and he picked about 4 or 5 of us in it. He was all like, "Sod that, we ain't going." So we all went to Marbella, and I remember the only one that didn't come was Liam Hatcher. We was phoning him whilst we was there on the beach, all drinking and obviously celebrating, and phoning Hatcher and winding him up, saying he was there playing for England at C team while we was there partying. Probably wouldn't want my players to do that now, but I don't regret that either. We had a great weekend. I think it was Thursday to Monday, and we certainly made the most of it.
Brilliant. That's quality, yeah. So your time at Barnet came to an end, and you got picked up by Crawley. Quite a good start to your Crawley career. You scored in each of your first 3 games at the club. How did that move come about? And also scoring like that, I mean, that must make acclimatising to your new surroundings much easier.
Yeah, I'd been at Barnet 8 years, and I think I went a little bit stale there. Like I said, I ended up playing right midfield and left midfield here, there and everywhere, really. I didn't really get a chance to play back up front. So that summer, I nearly signed for Dagenham and Redbridge. It didn't quite happen. Crawley were great, chasing me all summer, and I ended up signing for them. And like you said, we got off to a good start, but it was carnage, honestly, at Crawley when I joined them. They had been deducted. We started the season, I think it was minus 20 points, something like that. But we had a really good squad. Yeah, they hadn't paid properly the year before, the new owners and stuff like that. So we started off and we beat, the first day of the season, I think Rushden and Diamonds were the favourites to win the league. We beat them 1-0. Then we went away to Stevenage, beat them. We had a really good group of players, and I was enjoying my time there, and obviously then ended up fracturing my cheekbone pretty bad and done my eye socket as well. So I was out for quite a while. And in that time, that's when John Steele come in for me, and I didn't know, like I'm saying, at Crawley, things were a little bit up in the air. I had signed a contract, but I didn't know that they hadn't processed my contract properly. They had done things a little bit dodgy. So,
wow.
Don't know how still he knew, but he knew. Found out that I hadn't been registered properly, put a 7-day approach in for me, and Crawley couldn't ask for a free, and they couldn't stop me for leaving. So that's why I ended up going to Dagenham, just on a bit of a technicality, really.
I mean, like you said just there, you came up against Lewes in the FA Cup, and that was where you fractured your cheek and damaged your eye socket. How did that sort of happen? And also, how supportive were your manager and your teammates at that time? Because, of course, that early in your career, that could be quite damaging to your mental health. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it was really weird. The ball just got crossed in. I went for a header, I went to flick it, and as I sort of turned my head, the defender jumped and his shoulder smashed me in the side of my cheek here. And I remember sort of going down. I got knocked out just for a split second and woke, sort of come round, and I sort of had a ringing sensation in my ear. The physio couldn't come on, and I'm not sure it was how a physio should do it, but he was like, shocked, because my whole cheekbone and eye socket had shattered, and it was obviously sunken into my face. I didn't know that at the time, but he obviously said you can't play on. I was like, why not? I'm fine, this, that and the other. I didn't realise how bad it was, obviously. Went off to hospital, and luckily I had a supportive family with me. It was one of my best mates' birthday party that night as well. I was supposed to be going off to a birthday party of his, which obviously I didn't go to. But yeah, the boys supported me the best they could. My family were great with me. I think I had to wait something like 10 days for the operation with all the swelling to go down and stuff like that. So that was a little bit testing going out of my house, because I think a lot of people probably looked at me thinking I'd been out in a fight or something like that, which that's how I looked. It didn't look too good. But yeah, people stood by me, my family more so, and they stood by me and everything in my career. So, and then before I knew it, I was back playing again. It was one of those things, once it was healed up, I could get on with it. It weren't like a broken leg or any bad injuries that other players have. I just got on with it, sort of thing.
Yeah, and then of course your time at Crawley was fairly short-lived. You ended up moving to Dagenham and Redbridge in December 2006. Was the fact that John Steele was manager there at the time, I mean, someone you'd worked with before, the main reason behind that move?
Yeah, and like I said, I nearly signed for him in the summer, and I was sort of, hoping really that deal got done. I went into, he told me the contract would be there for me to sign it, and then I ended up going in. He said he weren't ready before pre-season trained, and afterwards it still wasn't there. So I thought I was getting messed around a little bit. I went off and signed for Crawley, and then when he come back in for me in the December, it was he had just sold Craig McKell-Smith and Shane Blackett to Peterborough. He wanted to bed me in, ready to take over from Mako, who was going to be leaving in January. So once I got involved there, honestly, it was the best thing that happened to me in my career. There was a hungry group of lads, all young lads, wanting to kick on in their careers, and they ultimately got me going again and dragged me along with them. And that move probably turned out to be the best thing that happened in my career, because I'd gone from, being at Barnet and then Crawley and Dagenham in the National League to a couple of years later and end up playing in League One and stuff. That wouldn't have happened if I didn't sign for Dagenham or Redbridge, and I'll always be grateful to that group that I've become part of it.
Yeah, Ben, like you said, you kind of signed. I think you signed in November of that season, didn't you? So it was quite late on, but you were coming to kind of the important part of the season, which is the Christmas period. Did you know as soon as you kind of walked in, looked at the squad, did you know it was going to be a real successful season?
Not really. The only thing that really stood out for me in my opening weeks for them, obviously, was they was just a mental group. Honestly, it was mad group of lads. It was they sort of got nicknamed the new crazy gang, because just something happened every day. It was just a mad group of lads to be in. My first training session was pouring down with rain, and they said, like, on the way over to the training pitch, they I had to go and dive through a puddle before I had to train. It was like part of come on, go and do it. Two of the lads run and just head dive straight into it. So I was like, I can't not do it now. So I went and did that, and honestly, it was so cold then training for the rest of the session. But it was just the group that we had. They were brilliant. Young lads had all been given a chance by Silly, coming out of non-league, getting into a position, and like you're saying, around the Christmas time we went top, and then from then we just kept winning everywhere. We was going to places that I thought, God, it's going to be a tough game. Remember, we went to Kidderminster, I think it was, and we beat them 4-1. I thought it was going to be a tough game. Then we beat someone else home, beat Stephen. It was just beating everyone, and it was just a good group to be involved in. And I played a few games, but I didn't play my best, if I'm being honest. I was still fitting into the group, really. But Paul Benson was the main forward at the time. I ended up becoming a real good partnership with him the coming years after that. But I think he scored 30-odd goals for us that year and was amazing in that promotion year. But it was a special group of lads, a real good team spirit to be part of.
Yeah, you speak about it being a real good group and a bit like the crazy gang. That's a really good quote. What any noticeable names and any good stories from that year that we can kind of share with the Dagenham boys?
There was all sorts of characters there, and they just used to do crazy stuff. But it was literally like that. What I'm saying, where people would just go and jump in a puddle, and then someone else would go and jump in with it. I remember one of the lads. When I walked in one day, one of them had played the trick on the other one. So Chris Moore went to a pet shop and he bought all like crickets and things and put them in the lad's bag. We come in after training, he opened his bag, it just opened, and I'm talking the whole changing room got filled with crickets, and I think it was like flying ants. I can't even remember what the hell it was, but went everywhere. Another time, one of the boys didn't pick one of the other lads up. He stopped. He was just coming out of the train station, so he stopped as if he was going to pick him up, and as he went to get in the car, he drove off. So the lad remembered it, and honestly, the next week he bought the biggest snow I've ever seen. It was put it into his car. It happened to Sam Saunders. He put it into Saunders' car. It was just stuff like that. Just stuff that things you're just thinking, what are people doing? And to look back on it now, I look at it and I think, does it sound funny? But to be part of it and to be in and around it, and some of the stuff the boys did, and honestly, it was things on a daily basis. They were going out every weekend together in Essex, because we were so close to going out all around there. Just the team spirit and the togetherness really was the main part of that, why that team done so well, and just all with one common goal. And still friends for life now. I'm really close with loads of them boys. We still got a group we're all in together now. Still stuff flies around in that group, remembering what it was like that couple of years together. So amazing memories that I'll always cherish.
Yeah, like you say, about a very successful side, got promoted, propelled you into League Two, then into the Football League. this was a really good year for you. You ended up top goal scorer that following season in League Two. Sum up that season for you individually and as a group.
As a group, we probably struggled. It was a few new boys come in, but still he ended up going back to sort of more or less the team that had been successful for him the year before. Paul Benson, the main striker, got injured as well, so it ended up becoming me and John Nurse for a lot of the season. And that season, it was probably my best in my career. I just, I felt very confident, scored quite a few goals. And by the back end of it, the team stayed up, and all of a sudden I'd gone from the year before, without being bad, the phone hadn't hardly rung when I left Barnet. There was probably a handful of clubs that was interested in me. To that year, a couple of years later, doing so well in League Two, I had all sorts of agents phoning me, all sorts of clubs wanting me to sign for them, and I still had another year at Dagenham. And I honestly didn't want to leave. I loved it there, and I didn't. I stayed, and even that following season, the next year after it, the Wycombe come in and made a bid for me at Dagenham. Dagenham accepted it. I ended up sitting down having a long conversation with Stilly, and ended up turning down the move as well, not leaving then. And I just loved my time there, loved the boys. Like I'm saying, there's a real good team spirit, and I didn't want to leave it without it being the right time to leave. I wanted to try and get promoted, and I really thought we could go up to League One that following season. So, yeah, like I'm saying, it gave me a new lease of life and a kick on in my career that I needed probably from being at Barnet for so long. And
like you say there, Ben, is that a lot of players in your position where you've just gone and scored, you just gone and scored nearly 20 goals that season in kind of all competitions. Players could be at that position and go, I'm going to go and get the best possible move here to try and get me as high as possible. Was it the case was that you love the club that much, you love working under John Steele, you love the players, you love the fans, and the fact was that you were so confident in that group and the club as a whole that you thought, no, this is the best possible place for my career right now? Yeah, definitely. Look, if someone would have come in for me and offered ridiculous money, and still he would have accepted it, and it would have been a deal for me to turn down without being bad, anyone at National League and League Two level, people are going to find it very hard to say no to it, and I've got to be honest with that. But there was no offers that I really felt that I couldn't not turn down. Loved my time there, had the trust in my manager. I got to the position where I knew pretty much if I had a bad game, I'd still be playing the next game, just because he'd put enough faith in me. As a manager, you try not to do it, but I know now you've got certain regulars in your team. I'd become that for Stilly. Fans really got right behind me and the boys. They loved us, and they knew the one thing about that Dagenham group was, even when we lost, it was a real hard-working group. So we never really got that much stick off the fans. I think they all knew that we was trying our best for them. And I just thought, if it comes down to it, and my contract expired, which it eventually did, if Dagenham can't offer me a deal to stay, which suits me and suits them, and then the team wants to take me, then that's when I'll leave. And I really believe we could get up to League One. We lost on the last day of the season to Shrewsbury. They ended up taking the last playoff place and taking it off of us. We dropped out of the playoffs. And then obviously, you being a Gillingham fan, obviously Gillingham went on to beat him in the final, and I went and watched that. So I was cheering on Gillingham that day, I'm not going to lie. But I was out of contract that summer. And then I'm glad to hear that, mate. Yeah, I was obviously supporting Kingy, and I was really close with Kingy at Barnet. Went to support him, and I'm not going to lie, I went out. I don't know whether it was Saturday or Sunday that game was played. I'd been out with my mates the night before, and I was struggling because it was such a hot day, and I needed to go. I remember saying to my dad, it was going right into the last minute of the game. I said, I need to go downstairs, get a drink, go to the toilet. And I was in the toilet, and I heard the shout go up, obviously, when Simi and Jackson scored, and I'm jumping around with Gillingham fans, but I didn't even see the goal. I come back up. And obviously, Gillingham ended up winning the game. But I was right behind the goal that day. Unbelievable. And that was the first time, I've got to be honest. Before then, I didn't realise how amazing Gillingham fans was. That day being at Wembley, I was like, bloody hell, this is a fantastically supported club. I'd played against them, obviously, for Dagenham and Barnet and things like that. But I didn't realise until that day. And like I'm saying, I was secretly a Gillingham fan that day as well, just because Shrewsbury beat us in that last day of the season. So I was buzzing when you boys won. There you go. He was drawn to Gills even before he moved, and yeah, didn't move to us for another 4 years. No. But in 2009, you did make the move. You went to sign for Brentford under Andy Scott. What drew you to Brentford, and what was Andy like to work under? Yeah,
we'd played against them. I honestly didn't know that they was interested. They come to us needing to beat us, probably with a handful of games left to go to win the league. We ended up beating them 3-1. And I played quite well on the day, and so did a few of our other Dagenham players. And then he come over to me after the game, shook my hand, said, "Well played this, Daniel." I didn't think anything of it, but little did I know then it was sort of his way of sort of saying that you'd be interested in me in the summer. So I had the choice of about 5 or 6 clubs that summer when I met them, and I was really keen on joining them. And I failed my medical at Brentford on my ankle. I'd got injured just before second to last game of the season away at Notts County for Dagenham. Got like smashed on my ankle when I was really struggling. So I went for my medical, failed it. So he said, "Go off on holiday." I was going away with my girlfriend at the time, now my wife Lindsay, and he said, "When you get back from your holiday, we'll re-look at it, re-scan it, do it again." And because he put that trust in me going away and coming back, I passed my medical when I come back, and I thought, he's waited for me for 2 weeks to try and get this done. It's definitely the right place for me to be going. And ended up signing. And look, it was a tough year for me that year because, like I'm saying, with my ankle, little did we both know then. I don't think they would have signed me at the time, but I ended up then breaking that ankle pre-season. It obviously was not right from what happened to me earlier in the season before. And our last pre-season game was away at Hazen and I went up for a header, landed awkwardly and ended up breaking it. So I missed about 4 or 5 months to the season. So it made it really difficult for me that year.
Yeah, I mean, in that move, both Danny Foster and Sam Saunders also moved. Did you speak to them much during the time? How vital were they in you moving to Brentford as well?
I think it was a big part for all of us, knowing how well we got on together at Dagenham and Redbridge. I remember Saunders phoning me up because it was between them and one other team. He had already decided he was signing for Brentford, and he was sort of like, "Come on, let's go there. We've done so well the last couple of years together. Come, let's all go together." So yeah, it was a big factor, and both of them now, great lads. I ended up playing with Fozzie at obviously Dagenham. Then I played with him at Brentford. Then we went back together with each other at Wycombe as well. So and Sam ended up being at Brentford nearly the rest of his career. So us three all going together at the same time, I think was a big pull for all of us, and I think it made it easier for them as well signing us.
Yeah, I mean, you only ended up spending a year at Brentford, like you said, before you moved to Wycombe in 2010. Obviously, promotion in your first season as well. How did that move come about?
It was because of that, I missed probably half of the season. I think I ended up coming back playing in around the December time for Brentford, so I didn't get off to the best of starts there. And it wasn't anything against Andy Scott, but that year up, he was chopping and changing the team so much. We had so many loan players, so much. You sort of not play well for 1-2 games, and then someone else would come in your position, come in on loan or play in front of you. And I just never felt like I was really going to be a regular there. And we had quite an open chat in the summer, and he said, "Look, I don't want you to leave, but I've got to let you know that I am looking to bring in a couple of other forwards, and you may not be a regular starter next year." And then probably a week or so later, I got a phone call from them and said that Wycombe had come in for me. They wanted to swap Craig Woodman, who was at Wycombe, to go to Brentford, and me to go the opposite way. And Wycombe had been interested in me a couple of times before, and I'd always loved playing at Wycombe. I think it's one of the best League 2 clubs. I know it's League 1 now, could go up into the Championships, but I always loved playing there. And location was great for me as well. It was only 10-15 minutes from my house. I couldn't turn it down really, although I probably would have had another year on my contract at Brentford. To go and play for Wycombe knowing I was going to be a regular was a bit more appealing to me than probably sitting on the bench at Brentford for a year. So I didn't think twice about moving.
Yeah, I mean, it was Gary Waddock that you ended up playing under at that time. I've seen him manage Oxford as well. What was he like to work under?
He was brilliant. Honestly, I love Gary Waddock. I still have come up against him now as a manager. Obviously, he was Aldershot manager last year, and I see him a number of times coming to games last year. And that that year with Wycombe, we played some really good football, and at times we probably played too much football. And that sounds really stupid to say, but I think the next year when we went down in League 1 is because we was total football as well. We passed the ball out from the back. We played quite expansive the way he wanted his fullbacks to push on, and he just sort of let you express yourself as a player. And I really enjoyed playing for him. And he was one of those managers, sort of like I'm saying, the way games change now. He never really raised his voice, never shouted it up, but knew how to get the best out of players as well. So he would probably certainly be up there as one of my top managers I'm worked for. I really enjoyed playing for Gary Waddock, and completely different to someone like a Martin Allen or a John Steele in terms of his temperament and the way he spoke to you, but equally got the same respect for me. And I really enjoyed my time playing for him.
Yeah, I mean, you played with some really, really good characters at Wycombe. Obviously, current Wycombe manager Gareth Ainsworth. You played with Matt Phillips. You played with Matt Bloomfield, Dave Winfield, Stuart Bevan, Kevin Betsy. Just you can roll the list off. Was it those down to those characters being within that dressing room? Was it those type of characters on the reason that you were successful as a side?
Yeah, I've got to be honest. I just think we had a really good team. We had, like you're saying, we had some players there that played at much better levels. So it was younger players. Obviously, Matty ended up going off and leaving us, and he's had a great career now, in the Premier League and stuff. But he had obviously that talent. You could see that he had. Then we just had a. Sorry, I think I lost you there. So we just had a good mixture of lads, and like you're saying, Gareth Ainsworth is now Wycombe manager, but he was our captain at the time. He was 38 years old, I think it was, and honestly, his work ethic and his desire to still compete and to do well, I think he ended up getting double figures from right midfield that year. He was a massive part of why we done so well that year as well, and we had a real good goalie, Nicky Ball. He had come from Brentford as well. Just a mix between senior boys, people like myself, well, sort of, 29, 30 at that point. I knew how to play, I knew how to win games. And a good group of young players coming through as well. And that season I got promoted. Footballing wise, it's probably one of my most enjoyable, just by the way we played and the way we didn't matter whether we was going away from home against a top team or playing against a home. We tried to pass the ball and we tried to really be expansive. And it was really enjoyable to play in that group.
In terms of Gareth Ainsworth, obviously you spent quite a bit of time with him. You ended up spending nearly 2 seasons with the man. Did you know at the time then he was going to go on and be a manager, because he's quite a unique character, isn't he? In obviously a good way.
Yeah, look, I think any person that becomes a captain, I think they're always the ones where you look at it in a group and you think, they might go on to be a manager because they've already got that respect to the dressing room. They speak quite well. They're sort of the liaison between the manager and the players, things like that. And he's just got an infectious personality. He's one of those where, like I'm saying, he was 38 then. I remember pre-season we was doing like so many hard running drills, but the manager would be saying to him, like, you can drop out of this one, like, Gaz. And he'd be like, no, I'm doing this then. Didn't matter, And he'll be like that now. I've got no doubt he probably joins in training and flies around tackling, doing madness now. It reminds me of Andy Heston, Tyler. They're just different characters. There's something about them that draws you to them and you want to do well with them. You want to impress them, and sort of their love for the game and their sort of desire just drags you along with it. So it doesn't surprise me he's doing so well as a manager now, And I think his first season in charge at Wycombe, he really struggled and they nearly got relegated down. But it just shows that if you stick with someone and you give them time and, they let them really implement their plans. Look at them now, they could be a championship team next year if all goes with this COVID stuff and stuff like that. But even if they're not, to be a top of League One team with Wycombe, with the budget he's had, I think he's obviously got a massive future ahead in the game by the looks of it.
Well, yeah, like you said, it's that following year, back in League One. It unfortunately ended in relegation. What do you think was it that didn't go to plan that season?
I think the summer, that year we got promoted, the summer recruitment was difficult for Gary Wood. I don't think our budget got increased a great deal. So he was trying to bring players in that probably were maybe a little bit out of his price range, and he ended up going for players that he knew from Aldershot. And the ones that come in without being disrespectful probably didn't make us any better than we was the year before in League Two. And that's not talking bad to them boys, because they're all great lads as well, And we put ourselves as part of that. We needed a little bit, few more added quality to step up and do well in League One. And I think it was the January time he brought in Paul Hayes from Charlton. He brought in 2 or 3 other, Craig Eastman, Gary Dockey. And we went on a great run. I thought we was going to get out of it. We had a squad then that if that had been assembled from the start of the season, there's no doubt we'd have probably been a mid-table team, maybe a bottom half, but we certainly wouldn't have got relegated. But we didn't really get a chance to do that until the sort of January window. So, I ended up leaving at the end of that season, really gutted, because we'd worked so hard to go up into League One, and then leaving on a relegation wasn't a good feeling for me, and one that I regret now. And obviously, I ended up joining Gillingham, but I think I've spoke to Gary Woodcock since then as well. But I think he regrets letting me go that summer as well. I think he wishes he would have held on to me, because before he knew it, the start of that next season, he didn't last too long as manager. I think he wished he would have kept a few more of the lads in and around him that done well for him before. So that's all hindsight. I just wish we'd have stayed in League One, which we didn't ultimately do.
Yeah, I mean, you spent 2 years at Wycombe, Ben. Obviously, like you said, they're flying high under Gareth. Like you also said that you had a great group there. The names that I listed off and maybe potentially missed off names as well. Over those 2 years, how do you sum up your time at Wycombe? And also with the characters that were there, any names that I missed off that you might be able to tell me, and any great stories that you can kind of tell us from your 2 years at Wycombe?
The second year was probably the year where a lot of the boys now, when you look at it, that's the year that we struggled. A lot of boys broke in for the youth team. You know, there's a lad called Jordan Ibe now that he's at Bournemouth now, but went to Liverpool. But he come from like school. I think he was 15, 16, come and train with a group, and straight away train with us. You're like, bloody hell, this kid's good, sort of thing. But didn't work out well for me because I got dropped for him on the weekend, and I remember thinking, bloody hell, I'm getting dropped for a kid that's coming out of school. I think he was 15 or 16. We played Sheffield Wednesday and he scored an absolute worldie. I mean, it was a ledge goal on his debut. Run off, celebrated with his mum, the poor little sod, and got booked for it. But we ended up selling him to Liverpool. Kadeem Harris, I think he's at Sheffield Wednesday now. Come out of that group. Anthony Stewart, who's a centre-half, has gone back there now, but he ended up getting a move. Courtney House, where's he at now? I think he's at something like Aston Villa. Matt Ingram, Josh Scowen, who's at Sunderland now, was at QPR. A group of young lads that broke through at that time underneath people like the Matt Phillips and all them sort of boys that just ended up, they're going on to have amazing careers. I just think it was the way the club was run. It was an amazing family club. There wasn't a crazy atmosphere that I had like at Dagenham and Redbridge, but in terms of a family club and the way they looked after, I had a little boy at the time, Sam, the way they looked after my little boy at home games and let him come onto the pitch, the hospitality and all the stuff like that. It's honestly a classy football club, and buzzing that they're doing so well now. It's amazing how well they're doing. I always looked at Wycombe as probably being too good for League Two, but always struggled when I got to League One. But like I was just saying, they could end up becoming a Championship club, which would be amazing if that happens. And if not, to be a top of the League One team is credit to the work Gaz has done and all the people behind the scenes there now. Yeah,
in 2012, you did end up signing for eventually my team, Gillingham, under Martin Allen. He needs no introduction, does he? What was Martin like?
He's nuts, but just there's two sides to Martin Allen. There's a side that when things are great, and they were brilliant at that time with Gillingham, especially early part of the season. We went something like 10 games in a row or something crazy. He's infectious. He's fun to be around. You don't know what you're going to do in training. Anything could happen. He'll have you jumping through bushes, head in toast, just crazy.
Head in toast.
Stuff. Yeah, he just at times, if you can't get onto the training pitch, you're working on your set plays. He would do it like a hotel, when he would be like getting whoever's taking the corners to throw the toast in, and the boys to pretend to head it and stuff like that. He's just wicked. He's amazing. He's funny. He's like I'm saying, if I try replicating that now with my boys whizzing some toast in, they'd look at me and go, "What are you doing, Gaff? You can't be doing that." So, a mad character. But that team at Gillingham, when I got in there from pre-season, they'd been off to Le Touquet doing a training camp in France. Come back, I played a game with them, and then ended up signing. And I knew from pre-season that group was special. You could tell there's real good players in there, and they were so fit as well. I was always been a fit lad in my career, and I was probably just one of the average players in the group in terms of fitness. Everywhere else I'd be probably up there right near the top in the running. But we had people like Chris Welkdale, who was absolutely smashing the running, was so fit, Charlie Allen, people like that. We just had a group that you just knew was going to do well, and he recruited well as well. He's brought some real good characters in, and I wasn't surprised when Gillingham ended up winning the league that year.
Yeah, I mean, you speak about the characters there of obviously Chris Welkdale and Charlie Allen, but you can then go, obviously, this summer you arrived, so did Adam Barrett, so did Stuart Nelson. Obviously, later on in that season, Leon Legg arrived. David Wright played for a little bit in midfield. Anton Robinson. Obviously, Charlie Lee was in there. Miles Weston arrived in the summer. Then, obviously, Dion Burton. You can keep going. Obviously, the strike force that we obviously started the season with, correct if I'm wrong, Dion, yourself, and Danny Kedwell. And obviously Adam Birchall was there at the time as well. I mean, was it the case that I mean, reading through that squad, it's players that have been there and got the t-shirt and got promotions already, haven't they? It was a side waiting to have success, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just men, like you're saying, proper characters. You talk about someone like Adam Barrett. He's probably one of the best captains I had, and I was only there a short time with Adam. He was amazing, and straight away, as soon as he come into the group, you could tell he was going to be our captain, and he joined the season. I had done really well pre-season with Keds, and it was looking like I was going to start the season. I did. I started away at Bristol City in the League Cup or whatever it was, and ended up scoring.
Did you score?
It was scored. Thought I played quite well, but Dion got signed, and I thought I was going to start up front with Keds. The next league game, Dion started, and I've got to be honest, Dion and Keds' partnership that year was amazing. As hard as it was for me to be sitting there and not playing because them two were starting ahead of me, like I'm saying, I think we went 10 wins in a row or something like that at the start of the season. When you're sitting on the bench and the players are playing well, you have no complaints whatsoever. I don't care who you are. You can't go and knock on the manager's door and say, "Why am I not playing?" when you're winning every single game you play. And it was just like that, you put a group together, worked really well, added quality to it. I knew Miles Weston, I knew Leon Legg, just real quality players that was within the team that we was bringing in to the lads we already had there. And, people like Charlie Lee and Welps had won things already. Adam Barrett had. I've been quite lucky with promotions I had. We just had a team, really, that knew how to win football games. And like I'm saying, even when I ended up leaving in the January, I promise you, I knew leaving that football club that Gillingham were going to win the league that year. And it's probably, I've said it in interviews before, I regret it now. I wanted to play where I really should have just gone for that year. Listen, if you end up sitting on a bench and being part of something amazing, just sit there and watch it. But ultimately, a bit of pride got in front of me and I wanted to go off and play, and I do regret it now. I should have stayed the whole season and watched the team win the league. I wasn't there when the boys picked up the trophy, which is a bit of a gar. But look, that's hindsight. You realise that when you get a little bit older. It's one of the regrets I have.
It wasn't, Ben, but did you get a medal?
I did get a medal. That's what I'm saying. It's just I played enough games, luckily, early part of the season. And even when I was leaving, Martin had obviously told me that Birchie was coming back to fitness. I think he was talking about bringing maybe Cody McDonald back. Said I won't be playing as much, and I'd already been sitting on the bench already then. So I was just like, John Steele would ask me to go back to Dagenham, and it sort of fitted in all right. And right at the last minute, him and Scroff, the assistant manager, pulled me and said they didn't want me to leave. Just said, look, do you want to stay? Can't promise you game time, but you will, you'll still be a massive part of it, this, that and the other. I think, like I'm saying, I got to the age then as well that I'd, done quite well in my career in terms of I knew how to be around the group to do well, and I weren't a sulker and I didn't moan when I wasn't playing. So I think they knew I was quite a good person to have in and around the group. But because it was John Steele and Barnet, in Dagenham and Redbridge, I couldn't turn it down. I was going back to where I had some real good times and sort of went back searching for that same feeling that I'd had a couple of years ago. And it didn't quite work out. Still, he left and went to Luton about 2 weeks later, so that didn't work out well for me. But
I mean, you made the move to Dagenham on deadline day. How was it being a part of deadline day? Was it a little bit weird, or was it a case of that the move was always kind of around before deadline day come around?
Yeah, it'd been in the making for weeks. There was a few other teams that lower down that are coming from me, like National League teams and things like that, and I was saying no to it, this, that and the other. And then Stilly got in touch with me, and it had been going on for a few days. It was just sort of making sure that everything was done. And it weren't like one of those like rushing to get it signed or anything. It was done pretty easy that day. And I think I even trained with Dagenham the day of like sort of the deadline day or whatever. But yeah, like I'm saying, right at the last minute, it didn't happen. Probably in hindsight, I probably should have not gone. But because I ended up going and Stilly left 2 weeks later, couldn't turn down going to Luton. And then Wayne Burnett took over as manager. And Wayne's a good guy, but it wasn't probably what I needed at that time. He was a young manager. We'd done a lot of stuff on the training pitch that weren't really enjoyable for myself. And yeah, look, regrets are one thing you have to think with football. You're always going to look back on things and you think that was the right decision to make, that was the wrong decision to make. I shouldn't have left Gillingham in that January. I should have stayed till the end of the season.
I mean, with Dagenham, you just stayed up that season. You scored 4 goals in 10 games for yourself. How was the final few months of that season like? I mean, it must have been nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I've got to be honest, I hated it. I hated that. I'd gone back searching for the group that I'd left and that feeling of being at Dagenham and Redbridge, and I went back to a complete different group of lads. Ultimately ended up being a different manager. and we did. We, Wayne was trying to change the playing style. John Steele's quite a direct manager. He gets the ball up there, he gets crossed in the box, and Wayne wanted to play a different way, and he spent a lot of time on the training pitch, passing drills and patterns and stuff like that. And we ultimately, last day of the season, we lost, but other teams around us lost as well, and we stayed up. But it wasn't a good way to start. We didn't play well, and I think Wayne went on to have a better time the following seasons after I left there. But I didn't enjoy the end of that season, and really probably shouldn't have gone back, because I don't want the Dagenham fans to remember my spell with that second spell, rather than remember the real good times we had a couple of years before. So, but yeah, like I'm saying, I can't change that now, and luckily we stayed up. Well, that was the main thing.
Yeah. I mean, you then joined Eastleigh in the summer of 2013. You ended up winning the Conference South title that season. Great season for yourself. I mean, what was special about that set of players and that management as well during the time?
That group I joined, honestly, my plan was, I was doing a degree at the time I was doing a sports science degree, and I was planning on sort of going part-time and becoming a PE teacher. That was my plan for when I finished my career. So it was like part-time. One of my mates, Glenn South, and I knew from Dagenham, and Redbridge has signed this. It's an amazing football club with real good people in it. And the group we had for the Conference South, it is not being big-headed. We was far too good as a group to be in the Conference South. We ended up winning that league that year. Probably the biggest thing for me that year was the manager, Richard Hill, converted me from being a centre forward to playing me centre midfield, and sort of give me a new lease of life in a latter stage in my career. And I ended up playing, another, 200 games, 150 games after that in centre and midfield. So I was lucky that Hilly changed my position, and I joined a fantastic club that I thought would be a short-term thing just to get me into becoming a PE teacher. And talking to you guys now, 5-6 years later, however long it is, and I'm now their manager, I didn't know that was going to be the case at the time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like you said at the time you had a sense that you were going to go on and achieve some great things with that set of players. What do you think was sort of like the turning point in that season where you really realised that you could go on and achieve greatness?
We had without being arrogant to the league, we had just really good players in every position. And the games we lost, we was dominating some games, and it was being a little bit, without being bad, on our own faults. We were losing games. We were probably going too attack minded at times, and we ended up getting done on a counter attack and stuff like that. But I remember Bromley went something like 13 points clear of us, and we had loads of games in hand because we was involved in the FA Trophy and things like that. So we had lots of games in hand. And their skipper at the time put a tweet out. We lost away at someone, and he put a tweet out saying you shouldn't celebrate other teams' victories, but something along the lines of the championship's nearly here or something like that. And we all had a little laugh as a group. And I think we went on an unbeaten run of God knows how many games, and ended up going to their place and beating them 2-1. And let's just say a few of the boys give him a few words after the game about this tweet. I think he regrets doing it now. So we just had a good group, and without being bad, better than the level. And I think that proved, because we didn't really recruit that many players that summer. We ended up nearly getting promoted the following year in the National League as well. We just had a good group of players together.
I mean, yeah, you get promoted. I mean, how was that first season back in the conference? I mean, you reached second round of the FA Cup that season. You reached the playoffs after finishing fourth. You lost out to Grimsby in the semi-final. Just sum up your feelings about that season, really.
We was a good team, honestly. We had a bit stayed together. We'd added a couple. We brought James Constable in from Oxford, Jack Midson in from AFC Wimbledon, and a couple of forwards that had done well at higher levels. Paul Reed, centre half, come in to add to the group that we already had, and we knew from very early doors in that season we was a decent team. And it's not just saying it now. I think the only team over the course of the season that beat us both home and away were Grimsby. We ended up playing them 4 times that year in the 2 playoff games, and they beat us on every occasion, whereas no one else in the league had done that to us. I honestly think if we had got whoever else, it would have been in that league in them playoff ties. I think we could have beaten them, but they just had our number that season. Unfortunately for us, and they deserve to beat us over both legs. They beat us in them playoffs. But I honestly believe if we'd have played anyone else in them players, we'd have ended up going to Wembley and having a real good chance of getting promoted that year.
I mean, you said you signed some great players, James Constable, Jack Midson, 2 players I absolutely loved at Oxford as an Oxford fan. Do you think signing that sort of experience, having those experienced heads around the team really sort of helps you push on into the conference as well?
Yeah, I think we just, we already knew we had a good group of players. Like I was saying the year before, we knew we was better than the National League. But I think signing people like James Constable and Jack Midson, I think all of a sudden made the National League go, well, these boys ain't coming up just to stay up or be part of the National League. These boys are looking to come up and, get promoted. And I think our owner at the time, Stuart Donald, was a massive Oxford fan, huge Oxford fan. So he pushed the boat out to get Bino, obviously being a legend at Oxford, and Jack Midson and stuff like that. But I think them boys were quite lucky, and I think they would say themselves, they joined a group of lads as well. They joined a good team as well. And I think it was a good fit for all of us. And really close to going back to map promotions. It was probably our closest we got to get promoted.
I mean, you came up against Grimsby in the semi-final of the playoffs, like we said. Just sort of some of the feelings in the run-up to that game as well, and also how you had to deal with defeat afterwards.
Yes, the leading into them games, I wasn't captain of the team, but I was like vice captain, and there'd been a few injuries, so I was captain of the side then. And I remember my manager Richard Hill pulling me. We was training on the pitch leading up to the first game, and he's like, "You do realise you're 2 games away from leading the team out of Wembley," and it was sort of the first time I'd really thought about it. But wow, I could be a captain, playing at Wembley in a couple of games' time. We lost the first game 2-1 at home, a really, really close game there. Midfielder Nathan Arnold, I won't forget his name, a bugger squad, 2 unbelievable goals. I'm talking Weldies. To beat us 2-1 at home, and then we went for it. At the second leg, we went for it at their place, and ultimately ended up getting beat. We lost 3-0. I think we were 3-0 at their place the second leg, and comprehensively beaten. We went for it too much. Ended up getting beat over the 2 sides, and feeling really gutted on the coach on the way home. It was a horrible feeling on the journey home knowing the season was over, and obviously falling short of what we all wanted to do.
I mean, in 2015, after the run of results, Chris Todd was made manager after Richard Hill left. Initially caretaker manager, and then he become permanent manager. But kind of that following year, Eastleigh picked up a bit of a rep for obviously the FA Cup run, and you got your name back into the news after scoring the winner at Crewe. I mean, that day must have been that FA Cup run must have been amazing. But that day for yourself at Crewe, you took loads of fans obviously down the side of the pitch. Sum up that FA Cup run and that day at Crewe as well, Ben.
Yeah, no, we was good. We was a good team that year, and I think ultimately we didn't make the playoffs again that year just because of how well the FA Cup run we had. Whenever you do well, that was the reason I was so impressed with Lincoln that year, that they got promoted in the amazing FA Cup run that they had. They managed to balance both out. Very few teams seem to do that. The teams that have good cup runs, sort of your league form drops away a little bit as well. So, but yeah, the day at Crewe, leading into that, I wasn't the penalty taker. I'd taken penalties throughout my career, but we played Lincoln at home. We beat Lincoln at home and 4-0, and three different lads missed penalties that day. Brian Elwood missed a penalty, Jack Midson missed a penalty, and I think it was Jay Rees and the other one, or Will Evans, I can't remember. So they had all sort of used up their chances to take the penalty. So I took one leading in before going into that game. Little did I know, obviously, away at Crewe, then we'd get the penalty. So for me on the day, obviously, it got me a bit of personal recognition because I took the penalty, but we played really well that day against Crewe. They were struggling down the bottom end of League One. They had a lot of young players, and we had a real, just spoke about it before, a real experienced group of lads. And without being bad, we sort of had more league games amongst our boys than they did, and we could have beaten by more on the day. I was just lucky, obviously, than me that stole the headlines. But then we played Bolton in the next game. Yeah. And we were 2 minutes away, I think, from beating Bolton. There was a championship team at the time. They scored, I think Darren Platt, he scored with a couple of minutes to go, and we ended up losing the replay. But I thought we was going to beat them as well and being into the 4th round. But it was a great run, and like you're saying, catapulted the profile of the club, which Stuart Donald obviously really wanted. He put a lot of money into the football club, and it catapulted Eastleigh in a bit of the limelight, which obviously the club wanted, to sort of tell everyone who they was.
Yeah, we'll speak about the FA Cup then, because a lot of people say that the love's gone out for it. The top sides don't really take it seriously. It's just another cup competition. Do you go back to those sort of times where you beat Crewe, you had a championship team in Bolton coming down? Do you see those type of nights that the FA Cup won't lose its love and it is still the greatest competition that there is?
Yeah, I look, it frustrates me. When teams are in relegation battles and stuff like that, and then they end up going in the FA Cup and they don't want to get players injured and this, that, and the other. But I don't understand the team when they're 5th in the league down to 10th or 12th, and they end up resting players for the FA Cup. I just think, why do you not try and win it? You know, it's I think we've all been brought up on it. You know, the amount of telly football coverage we get now with Sky Sports News and all that stuff is amazing. But my earliest memories are FA Cup final days, the one day where you could wake up and the telly football would be on from like 9 in the morning to whenever the game kicked off, and loved it. You know, just amazing memories. My dad took me to, like, I'm an Arsenal fan, took me to cup final when Andy Linegan scored the winner. Like, that's something I'll never ever forget. And I was lucky as well. A couple of years ago, I managed to get tickets, and my little boy Ollie, it was the first game he had been to. I took him to when Arsenal beat Chelsea. So there's certainly things that are so it's his first ever game watching Arsenal beat Chelsea, which was amazing. But yeah, just for me, it's the best cup competition in the world, and I think a lot of foreign players think that as well, and I just hope that it don't get diluted down in the coming years. Ultimately, the reason we don't do it, but if they could give a Champions League place to the winners of the FA Cup, you know, that would make teams put out strong teams in every round, but without being bad, English football don't want a championship team and go and play in the Champions League or something like that, because, you know, the unthinkable does happen at times. So, but I hope it don't get diluted, because it's an amazing competition. I think every English fan loves it, so hopefully it doesn't.
During that last season of kind of 2015-16, you kind of stepped more into a bit of a coaching role, didn't you? In terms of you become kind of player assistant. How was it kind of in your head at that time that you were looking to coaching, and then how did that assistant role come about?
No, honestly, it wasn't. I hadn't even thought about it then.
No.
My plan was obviously to finish and then go off and being a PE teacher or something. But it was really weird. We had played a home game, and we had like a chief exec at the time. And the game, I was about to get in the car I travelled in with about 2 or 3 of the lads, and he pulled me and he asked me a question about the assistant manager at the time. And he said, how do you get on with him, this, that and the other? And I was like, yeah, he's fine, this, that and the other. And I was captain, so it was really bad to find this out. But he said, like, a few of the boys are not really having him, and I've been told that. And we're thinking about making the change. We don't want to change Toddy as manager. We're thinking about making a change at assistant manager. And I was just like, I couldn't believe it. So I got in the car. Whether I should have done it or not, I said to a few of the boys, I was like, I just had a really weird conversation, like, with Julia, the chief exec, and I said this, that and the other about the assistant manager. And 2 of the lads I was in the car was like, yeah, we don't like him. We don't like him. I was like, all right, like, could have told me that. I didn't have a clue. Before I knew it, he had obviously left as being assistant manager, and they asked me if I'd step in just on a temporary basis to the end of the season, because I think we had a handful of games left to play. So I said, yeah, look, I'll help the best I can. You know, I'm not qualified or anything like that, but I'll try and help the best I can. I still want to play. And ended up becoming assistant just to the end of the season. I thought it was just a temporary basis, and then they was going to find an assistant manager in the summer for Toddy, and if things would go back to normal. But it didn't obviously play out to be that way.
I mean, in 2016, you ended up moving to Whitehawk, and you ended up in that short spell there. You ended up becoming player manager. I mean, considering you said you wanted to become a PE teacher at the beginning of, you know, your thoughts behind what you want to do after football, what was it like then taking the main role as a head coach?
Honestly, that season is the maddest season I've had as a player, coach, whatever you want to call it. 4 games into that season, Toddy got sacked as manager. I ended up becoming caretaker manager a game away at Wrexham. And like I'm saying, I didn't really see myself as being a coach. I was still, you know, filling in sort of thing. And Ronnie Moore ended up coming in as manager and brought Kevin Watson in as his assistant. And look, not wrongly, they didn't probably want me in and around the group, because they see me as Ben Strevens, player / assistant manager, which, you know, that was my title. They probably thought, I don't want the old assistant manager here, sort of, you know, they don't know how I'm going to talk to players about them and things like that. They didn't probably want me there. So I ended up leaving and going to Whitehawk with Richard Hill. You know, I only went because he was hilly, and he brought a lot of the old Eastleigh boys back together, and we went down to Whitehawk, and we was doing quite well, to be honest. And we had all of a sudden, Hilly said he wasn't enjoying it. Said he was going to go off and become Aston Villa's one of their chief scouts. So I was sort of left there, really in a little bit of you know, not knowing which way to turn really. And they asked me if I step in and become sort of caretaker manager, and I said yes, but didn't feel like I was ready to become a manager at that time. So I was just doing it on a temporary basis. But honestly, it was a crazy time in my career, and one I'm happy. Well, I won't hopefully have to ever go through that again. I didn't enjoy it, to be honest.
Was there anything in that spell as well which you really took on board as a manager that you learned as well?
I'll tell you the one thing I did learn at White Oak. I didn't want to become White Oak manager. There was so much politics and stuff going on behind the scenes. It was honestly, I was like, sod this. If this was what manager, if this was going to be my first chance of being a manager, I didn't want it to be there. And I can say that openly and freely now. You know,
did it put you off a little bit, Ben?
It did at that time. They had an old boy that come and helped me. He was a great guy, and I did it on a temporary basis. But I knew that wasn't my opportunity. They offered me the job on a full-time basis, and I turned it down. I knew that wasn't where I wanted to start, and I knew without being bad, it wouldn't have gone well for me there. Nothing to do with the boys or anything like that, just because there was so much uncertainty around the football club. So, just strangely for me, Jay Saunders, who was Maidstone manager at the time, phoned me up out of the blue, just really unexpected, said, I need a bit of experience. We're struggling a little bit up in the National League. You know, would you come and play for me? And I was just like, yeah, sounds good. Was all ready to go and sign for Maidstone. And he phoned Martin Allen, who had just taken over at Eastleigh as a reference for me. You know, Martin had been my manager 2 or 3 times. And little did Jay know, and little did I know, that ended up making Martin Allen phone me and say, look, I want to bring you back to Eastleigh. And obviously, it's changed my life, really. If Jay hadn't phoned him, I probably would have gone to Maidstone, maybe been there 6 months, a year. And now, 2-3 years later, I'm now Eastleigh manager, and it was all because of that phone call. It's crazy.
Unbelievable. I mean, yeah. Richard Hill and yourself went back to Eastleigh. Andy Hesse-Tyler then come in, and I think at the time Hess was assistant, and then later on become the manager. We spoke a little bit about Richard Hill. What was Hess like?
Yeah, look, Hilly and Hess are 2 completely different characters. Ed, obviously, when Hess was manager at Gillingham, Richard Hill was his assistant. So then when Hilly come back in, he'd never really had Toddy as his assistant the first spell round, but he never really had someone you could call as a proper assistant manager, Richard Hill. So he wanted to bring Hesse in. Hesse come in as his assistant manager, and I was obviously first team coach / player. I still wanted to play at the time. Hilly ended up going upstairs. Hess took over as manager. I become assistant to Hesse, and I learned so much of him. I love him to bits. You know, he's just a great character. You know, so enthusiastic. You know, Gillingham fans love him just because of his all action, the way he was, and his character. And I love him because of that as well. He's mental. He's just mad. Love him to bits. You know, our pre-season running, whatever the boys did, me and him had to join in and do ourselves. We'd have to test it out the day before. Just an old school guy, but a real good heart as well. And I was gutted when he left. I really was. I was really enjoying being his assistant. I learned so much from him.
Yeah, we spoke a little bit about him earlier, about Stuart Donald. Obviously, he's now he's trying his best to sell the football club in Sunderland. What did you have many dealings with him? And if you did, what was he like as a man?
Yeah, loads of dealings. Stu was honestly, he was really hands-on. He was always in and around the group, especially the Conference South year and the next year. He was really tight with the boys. He'd come and sit and have breakfast, lunch with us, come on the coach for away games, you know, talking about that Crew game. He got on the coach, we picked him up from the train station, absolutely steaming, got on, bought the boys all drinks. Just wicked, just brilliant to be around. Loved it. And he's one failing, and this is not a bad failing to have. He just always wanted to help, you know, even with Toddy and been there. Eastleigh got a bit of a reputation for being, you know, an easy money place. They spent so much money on players 2-3 years ago, ridiculous contracts, and that was just because Stu just wanted to get promoted and get into the Football League. That was his dream, you know, with Eastleigh. So when he ended up, not last summer, the summer before, ended up telling us, he called us up to his office up in Oxford near Bicester, and told us he would leave and he was going to take over as Sunderland. I was honestly gutted. I couldn't believe it, and I didn't know what that was going to mean for the football club as well, for Eastleigh. I was really worried about the future of the club. But he's trying his best at Sunderland. That's a massive football club with a real passionate fan base. That, God, to be chairman of that club, that takes him doing. I'll tell you that.
I presume you've seen the Netflix series, have you, Ben?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, it's a good watch for me. Yeah.
I mean, obviously the biggest kind of wow factor of that kind of second season was when he was obviously, Stu was told by Jack Ross not to go kind of any more than a mil for Will Grigg. He ended up kind of paying, I think it was rising to 4 million in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You kind of sitting there going, oh my God, don't do it.
No, you could be, honestly, without giving too much away, I've been there in the office at Eastleigh when he's been doing it on a lower scale. Some of the deals that we offered to players not 2-3 summers ago when he was there, it weren't Will Grigg transfers and it weren't the wages obviously that them boys are doing. But I remember, couldn't speak freely about it. I remember phoning Charlie Lee about 4 times in one day trying to get him to sign for us rather than go and sign for Leyton Orient. And
wow.
It did. Obviously, it weren't the same figures as Will Grigg, but for National League, the deal that I was phoning up offering him, and I was sort of that guy, making them phone calls there going, this is what we can do now. I was there. I was that guy. So
wow.
Sit and watch it. It didn't surprise me. I knew the ins and outs of it anyway, and obviously still having a good relationship with the people up there in Sunderland, and they still, got a lot of time for Eastleigh. But it's just him. He just wants to help. Jack Ross is saying, I only want to spend £1 million on him, and he's seeing it from a football point of view, and they're trying to help the chairman not spend his money. But Stuart Donald's seeing it from, I want to give you a 20 goal a season forward, 30 goal a season forward. I want to give you the best possible chance for you to get this club promoted. Yeah. And at times, that probably doesn't help managers. Probably didn't help Jack Ross. Didn't help Chris Todd at times. But it's only because he wants to help so much and he loves the game and he wants to do so well himself. I think he come across quite well in that Netflix documentary. I don't think many Sunderland fans could watch that and go, he isn't passionate about doing well and wanting to care in. It might just say maybe a few decisions maybe should have been done differently.
Not sure about his co-partner or in is it Charlie?
Charlie. Yeah, he's ended up leaving. He's ended up leaving the football club now. Charlie, he's not.
Obviously no. Yeah.
But yeah. Look, I went to the playoff final when they lost to Charlton. Obviously, watching it then, and I was sat at the table with Jack Ross's dad. And I don't really know that Charlie. He came over and he was speaking to someone, and some of the stuff he was saying then, I was a little bit like, probably isn't the right time to be saying it. I was writing to Jack Ross's dad and stuff, and I was like, God, didn't know too much about it, but. Yeah, I think he got painted as a bit of a villain in it, didn't he? I think he was the one who took a brand of the thing. Whether that's been edited that way, I don't know. But I thought they come across, well. And I know the Sunderland fans have gutted not getting promoted, but they lost with the last kick of the game and on penalties twice at Wembley. That's a gutter for ultimately that hurt the chairman as much as anyone. So I really hope that if he wants to sell, and I think he does, I hope that goes well for him. It goes well for them, and I also hope that he gets him promoted as well, because I know that was the reason he went there.
Yeah, I mean, okay, cool, go on, mate.
I was just going to say as well, of course, now you're Eastleigh's manager. How have you found your time at Eastleigh as manager? I mean, especially this season as well. Now you sit in 17th. How have you found this season as well as a whole?
It's just been a balancing act between the 2 years. My first season I took over as manager, there's probably like people going, I shouldn't be given the job. I was young. My caretaker games, we lost in the FA Cup, and we lost our first league game to our local rivals, Aldershot. And then I ended up getting the job and going on a great run, and we lost in the playoffs and lost to Salford. And I think it's well documented the finances that Salford had. They beat us on penalties and then ended up winning the final 3-0.
Remember that, being on BT. Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, it still hurts me now, because I know if we'd have won that penalty shootout, I know I'd be a Football League manager now with Eastleigh. And ultimately, at the end of that season, because we had done so well, I had my whole squad out of contract. We lost Paul McCallum, Josh Hare, Joey Jones. We lost probably 7 out of my starting 11. And this year, it's been really tough. I've learned loads this year, learned loads about myself, loads about being a manager. And I didn't think it was easy my first year, because we'd done so well and I reached the playoffs. Oh, this is all right. Whereas this has been a bit of a rude awakening this year. You lose football games, you don't get the best of the night's sleep. You're trying your best to find a formula to win games. And now I know I've got this summer, God willing, hopefully with all this COVID stuff that's going on, that we're back playing soon, and I can build a squad together that we can do well next year. And it's going to be trying for every manager next year at all levels. I think there's going to be massive wage cuts across the board. So it's going to be a tough summer for me in terms of recruitment and getting the right group together. But I can't wait to get back to work. I can't wait to hopefully get back to some form of normality. I'm sure the same with everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, what would you say is the biggest thing you've learned about yourself this season as a manager?
Just to back yourself, you know, there's been a couple of things, and I can't go into the ins and outs of it, but when I've sort of thought maybe I'm not doing the right thing, in hindsight, I proved that I wasn't doing the right thing. You know, I signed a couple of players and done a couple of things I wasn't sure on it. I was going, there's not much else around at this time. I'm going to do this, that, and the other. And I've done it, and I regretted it. Probably shouldn't have done it. Just to back my judgment, you know, I'm young as being a manager, but I've had quite a long career in football now, and ultimately to try and enjoy it. You get really, really stressed, and it doesn't matter whether you're in the Premier League all the way down to being a Sunday League manager, whatever it is, you want to win, and it's the same with everyone. So when we get back to normality, trying to enjoy it, back myself, and hopefully put a group of lads together. I'm going to try and bring in some young, enthusiastic lower league boys, like I was talking about, give them my chance, try and do similar what people have done for me in my career, and I hope it works out. And if it doesn't, then become a PE teacher, like I spoke about before.
You've been listening. Ben has had an absolute fantastic career playing with players that have gone on to play in the Premier League. We wish him all the best with his managerial career at Eastleigh, obviously going so close in those playoff semi-finals last season. And of course, we wish him, when COVID eventually does go away, we wish him all the best with his managerial career. You've been watching Inside the Change Room. Please keep liking, subscribing, watching our channel. Your support has been fantastic so far. We've got many, many guests coming up. Players from all over the levels sharing their careers with us. You've been watching Inside the Change Room.